I just drove by the church with the big cross on 103rd, and it was playing Oh You Went. And I turned right earlier going south, and it was like, oh, you're going southbound. And then I got to the church and was turning left, go east, and right at the point in the song we said dirt. So I just kind of gave that like little, Six of Pentacles, like, there you go. Do I need to say more? Just because I didn't have my phone on earlier, I wouldn't get to it. Didn't know those were the lyrics. Didn't anticipate it. And just wanted to document that I was listening to this radio station around this time, probably around 8:35 maybe. And this started right as I turned left. Circle, the world card of Saturn of limitations and limited perspectives, angles, degrees of 360. So there may be a lot of ways of looking at the center focus of something, but ultimately there's limitations, and perhaps for a reason, because there's too much to contemplate. But either way, those perspectives ultimately overlap and create new connections and new meaning and new matter and creation. And outside of that is breaking free of those sort of limitations and going beyond the circle where things just lose all their meaning and matter because there are no overlaps, there are no compatriots, there are no connections, creating further, deeper understanding. So also, yeah, matter, dark matter, and elementary particles and ways of looking at versions of things that you may have missed otherwise because you were limiting yourself, like the recycling machine does, into only two piles of to be recycled dirt trash, which again furthers my argument that it's already doing its job for me. So why do people make such a fucking big deal out of not putting non-recyclables in the recycling, and or having to, like, making there be no incentive whatsoever for you to recycle, because you have to like clean out the thing and like wash it. Basically no one wants to do the fucking dishes, and then throw it out in the recycling and probably take 2 trips to the curb in your recycling and trash. Like, there's no incentive whatsoever, especially when they're ultimately going to do the sorting for you, because what's going to happen? What's the worst that could happen? Honestly, is a buzzer going to go off? And it's going to be what then? Sorted into this can't be recycled, and if it didn't detect that, why would we know to have to split into the trash and recycling if it's going to do it for us, And ultimately the third leg of that is things that can be recycled but still have food on it, because everyone's like, you need to wash it. Like, people freak out about this. Like, you need to wash out the cat food can before you put in there. Why? Because ultimately, because it's going to reject it and put it into the trash, like, apparently, but then it's also just sorting it for me. right? Because what is it going to do? Like, just burn into flames or something? Like, what's the worst that can happen by putting non-recyclable trash in the recycling bin? Like, what's going to happen? It's going to sort it for me? Great. Then why are we stressing out? And why can't the recycling machine, this is my thesis or question, why can't the recycling machine that it's going to, that's doing this like ultimate assessment, justice of whether or not what something is, and making then its judgment, 20, of whether it's recyclable or not. And if it's only coming down to the fact that it wasn't washed properly or perfectly clean when it came time to make that assessment, you know, why can't it just create a third pile if we've already built a recycling machine to detect these two things that can also detect that it has food on it that would normally just put into the trash pile into a new pile that is to be washed. I'm not even telling it to do the fucking like dishes. Like, it can be handed off. And then to be recycled. Like, it can't figure that out. Like, if it can detect that it has food on it or something and it can't be recycled, then can't it detect that it's also still recyclable and just has food on it? And then put it in a third pile and create a new style? I think I made this connection just like a few minutes ago, actually, and now that creates a freedom and a liberation between two piles, and how it's because you take things a step further and challenge what is the distinguishing I can't talk right now, distinguishing factor, an ultimate determining factor of what is not tolerable and what is to be recycled or trashed, thrown away, discarded, or kept, and turned into something new, eventually. When you're very much limiting yourself in what is possible. By being kind of judgy. So, like, I was saying, Coco Chanel probably was a little bit similar in how I might have been a little bit anti people around here or in this, average suburban bitches lifestyle, and how important comes down to, because the only thing that you can really assess in the first impression before you even talk to someone and say hello and they can hear your voice is your brain's assessment of their image, and how important that is probably when it's like the tipping point between whether you go with something or not, or a decision-making factor, and you're like, comes down to the fact that someone wore a fedora and it's 2023. But then you could take that a step further and challenge what your disdain for that and say, how could I remake this into something new simply by stripping it of, and creating, making it recyclable. And she probably was a lot anti the norms of her day, and that's why she liberated the dress. She wasn't anti the dress, but she was anti the style because it was limiting. So she created a new one, from corseted to, and back then I think people's perceptions were probably also limited in how they were able to express themselves otherwise. So it really came down to fashion and the importance therein. But yeah, why is this fucking recycling machine can't deign to or fathom to create a new pile? It's already sorting too. What's the difference? Is it really that much of an effort? Because ultimately this is a really inefficient process, I think, and everyone's stressed out about doing something that can be condensed and combined into two processes, or at least one. switch that, combine into one process, and at least two, where we should just have machines in our houses that do that sorting for us, because it can just probably be, translated into like a small thing that can be in the house, and decide whether or not, and then can put it in the dishwasher. There's a lot more incentive in that route. And if you can put it in the dishwasher, you can probably put it back in the recycling. Eliminate any work on your part. Isn't that the ultimate goal for like pretty much everyone? I don't know why. And then especially when at the end of this like chain of events, the person getting the recycled materials through a shipping process is probably going to inspect them and then do another sorting process, whether it's suitable and acceptable, or if there's just like a little bit of dust, and then he's probably going to clean that too, because they're not going to put that through a machine and create a new like soup can if it's not like clean to start, right? And so really, it's just silly to me. But anyways, also this is very profound and just very much relates on a lot of levels of people not wanting to take responsibility, and if they do, it's like still judged, like, or I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like, and it stresses me out, because it's like, what's the worst that could happen by putting recycling or trash in the recycling, or not separating those two, What's the worst that can happen? What does happen, honestly, does the buzzer go off? Like, it's like, this is trash, and then it's like, what? Gonna separate it for me? So it's doing my job for me. And I was just thinking also, all I've done tonight really is get a possum hide that I saw on my way home. And it was so cute, and it was little. And I was like, this is going to be the best night of your life, the most generous thing I've ever done. Because I gave it a little edible. And I was thinking I should probably start getting a lot of animals high, because maybe we are limiting our ability and possibilities of tapping into the knowledge of the universe by not realizing that animals probably have a different perspective through their own evolutionary process throughout time, and whether or not their brains calculate that or not, it's probably built into their DNA. And that on some sort of enlightened spiritual level would be informative. Because they are a different species. So I can kind of, I don't know. Anyways. So why are we killing off animals when there is potential knowledge to be learned about our origins and the meaning and all that to the universe through our mutual understanding? Right, Deepak? Hey. But that is what builds our understanding of something, is it not? Something having meaning. And when something has meaning, it matters to you, so to speak, it has matter. It has a lot of components to it. overlaps, a lot of connections. Through creating limited space from which to, yes, look at things from many perspectives. There's a lot of ways, 360 within a circle, like the wreath in the world card. But still, there is a limit. Like Saturn, which is about limitations and discipline and lessons and work. And it probably does take a lot of work and to build those connections. Thus creating meaning and matter. Through giving things meaning. Through our lived experiences, right? So, it's through those connections and overlaps that we are able to find matter or have things matter to us that we haven't experienced, right? Because things shouldn't matter to us if we haven't experienced them. Unless they have meaning through another connection that relates to us, right? Do things really give meaning to you if it doesn't speak to you directly? Does anything really matter? So what's outside of the circle is everything that I guess doesn't, because it has no meaning, because it has no connection points. Midpoints, overlaps. My data plays, or data itself. And that's what it was that Shuffle brought up in Succession, was the data play, architecture of the universe video I made behind the scenes, and something about building blocks, which I think at the time I translated or associated to, the elements or fundamentals, basics of the universe. Maybe it was something about basics, and that's what it keeps coming back to, basics. And I think again, it's almost like our brain's first first impression of an idea or concept through what we're most comfortable with, or maybe, and I tend to, with fashion, right? I studied it, I worked in it, I know it, I like it, I enjoy it. So that's the lens that I probably first gravitate towards, gravitational pull. And magnetism, what I find disdain in, when I really don't enjoy. Or never had interest in. And I think it, again, goes back to that challenging of that personal dislike or anti-magnetism, and questioning why and how you could fundamentally work with changing that assessment of a particular concept or profession or something like that. But And just in relating that to how we think and how we go about creating an idea and how you look at things and finding further or deeper meaning within what you have to work with already. And reworking that and rewriting. Repeating. Maybe that gets to cycles and yeah, all of it. But honestly, I'm just dismayed at that. I feel like I have to have conversations with the Chicago waste recycling trash program people division and come up with a better solution, because honestly, it's going to do my job for me. That's giving me no incentive on top of having to do the dishes and like fuck up my nails. I hate doing dishes and I hate doing laundry. So really, it's just about reprogramming and improving upon technology and the materials we have to work with. Rethinking and questioning our surroundings and those in it and what has already been connected. And how you can branch off on new tangents and new legs, a third leg of the recycling process machine into a third pile of to be washed and then recycled, but still recyclable, because it's still sorting it and deciding that it's not suitable to be recycled because it has a little food on it or something. And if you can detect that, once again, why can't it just put it in a new pile of to be washed, to be, and then recycled? So it's really just an inefficient process, and it could be a lot more productive and helpful to everyone, because it just eliminates a lot of stress and even make it to like to do the dishes. And sort. So that would be the brain too, right? Changing our way of looking at something, and that's all connected to all the things that make up our being and experience, which then gets to epigenetics and changing or altering DNA, improving or having a role in the ultimate outcome of a creation. Of creation, I should say. And that affects everything. How could it not? Listening, what song was playing? I couldn't take a picture, my phone died. I was in a car that didn't have I'm not sure it did have a charger. I was a few minutes away, so I was gonna bother. But driving down 99th Street, some song was playing about peace going through an intersection. It was very much tempo addressing each word success with each next word or important word to stress with each following intersection was, so it was just like, yeah. So then the next one was now. And yeah. And everything passing at church. Right before you get to intersection. And there was something in that intersection too, but I forget. No. There were quite a few. Well, I had the car tonight for like an hour or so. My car's still like totaled, and getting a rental is a slow process because I'm already still talking to State Farm about the 16-year-old silent bitch that hit me in the parking lot of Target. Where she had a stop sign and I did not. And I was stopped pretty much like inching as I was going into the covered parking lot where it's dark from the outside in daylight. And so I was being very careful because you really can't see, and there's a cement wall divider between you going straight and the person coming at you from the left who has a stop sign. I did not. I was like inching forward and she did not stop, and she smashed into my car. And the only way I was liable is the fact that I was there, you know? That's the only way. And they've been giving me issues. So, challenging their assessment of my liability has slowed down the rental car process of when the last person hit me in the intersection on the side of the car that is the right side of my body where I had that fracture and it hurt me all over again. So that was really fun. And yeah, could have died. They obviously felt guilty and did not want to have to deal with it because they sped off. And John is my witness. I saw everything that happened, and it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. So all I saw were bright lights. And at least my instinct was sort of to lean into the direction of the way it was pushing me. Otherwise, had I could have broken my rib cage had I over the armrest. So I remember distinctly being lean into it. That was my only thought. I feel like it could have been a lot worse, so anyways. Yeah. So one of these days, because I don't even know if it's when my car's gonna be drivable again, so I missed testing my theory, my intersection theory, my peace theory, my theory of now. moment. Basically, I'm not being given, at the moment, any incentive to do dishes or laundry, so it's a lot of work, or extra work, that's proven unnecessary, and I might fuck up my nails. I prefer not to. I prefer not to have to do any extra work, but still enjoy, like, the food that comes in the container that can be recycled, that you're asking me to wash. In order to recycle it, in order to still go through a process of detection of whether it has food on it or not, and whether it can be recycled or not. Because if it doesn't, then why are we fucking stressing out? And why haven't we built a machine that does? Thank you. Oh yeah, and why would I go to any extra work, like doing the dishes and cleaning out a can of cat food, make sure there's no remnants of cat food because it's kind of stinky and it might not be recycled because it's not, like, pristine? Like, it has to be brand new for it to be recycled, basically? That's what you're telling me? I'd rather not go to the effort if it's just gonna, like I said, fuck up my nails or take up an extra 5 minutes of doing something that's probably not enjoyable for me, considering my history of liking doing no dishes. But at the same time, that's not true, because it's one of those things you just had to do. Especially if you didn't have a dishwasher, which even furthers my point, and, like, you're giving me no incentive here at all, because you should be able to build a fucking dishwasher that you don't have to, like, first do the dishes in order to get it perfectly clean in the dishwasher. Like, we've built technology that's gone to space and the moon, and we can't build a fucking dishwasher that can pre-soak sufficiently that I still have to do the dishes? Yeah. And if we can eliminate that necessity or stress, when people, like, freak out, I'm like, it's not that dirty. Like, what is your issue? And it should be able to do it for me. And, yeah. We can eliminate that whole debacle and, yeah, necessity, then there's room to fill your time with your extra 5 minutes with doing something enjoyable, which is ultimately the goal, is it not, for most people? Like, most people, I think everyone, all people, want to enjoy things, enjoy their time, some way, shape, form, fashion, right? Isn't that the deciding factor, ultimately? What makes you feel good? Great, you're welcome, thank you. Very much high. And if we can eliminate that necessity or stress, when people, like, freak out, I'm like, it's not that dirty. Like, what is your issue? And it should be able to do it for me. And, yeah. We can eliminate that whole debacle and, yeah, necessity, then there's room to fill your time with your extra 5 minutes with doing something enjoyable, which is ultimately the goal, is it not, for most people? Like, most people, I think everyone, all people, want to enjoy things, enjoy their time, some way, shape, form, fashion, right? Isn't that the deciding factor ultimately? What makes you feel good? Great, you're welcome. Thank you. Very much high. The pleasure principle. In whatever form that appears. For you, personally. Just coordinates my ass. Harry Styles. Mic drop. Case 1. Ta-da. Yeah, ta-da, look what I made. Mars in Libra. Case 1. Jupiter in Aquarius. Mic drop. 12. Chiron in Gemini. 2 ways of looking at something. The twins. The 3rd house. But my 12th house. So 12 and 12. 33. 6. The lovers. Gemini. It just goes around like that, so yeah. Went round. Which, if you didn't catch, is a reference to that song. Oh, you went. I was playing when I passed the church with the huge Jesus cross parking lot on the street, and turned into the intersection going east. As he said dirt in that song. Oh, right, I was listening to Venus 303. I came across in this Sirius XM, because I don't know how to work their radio. And, yeah, as I turned, or as I was going east, it was like something Venus. I was like, oh yeah, Eastern Star, the star, 17. Guiding light like the northern star to Jesus. Like I said, the 3 wise men, also in Grand Trine, Grand Air Trine. Wisdom, air, thought, swords, mental, wise, discerning, intelligent. Oh yeah, the 9 of Cups, Jupiter in Pisces, which I believe Einstein had, always comes up when I'm speaking about or make some sort of breakthrough in thinking or connection in some sort of scientific sense as well. Which is a happy little man in the Rider-Waite deck. The 4 main fixed cornerstones of the World's card being the fixed signs, so that being the fundamental laws or fundamental building blocks, DNA-based pairs. 1 pair being in the birth of Venus, Botticelli's painting, air blowing towards Venus. And so, but ultimately it's 1 cumulative card, right? So, and everything in between is all the variations and perspectives. But ultimately you come to 1 depiction of the World card. I guess perhaps that can vary then too through your own style preference of illustrating the World card, decorating it, designing it, or just picking it out. Between decks in a store. When I say variations in perspectives, I'm thinking about going around an astrological wheel or the laurel wreath in the world card from fixed point to fixed point, or from the different signs and the four corners, four corner building blocks, and everything in between is makeup. So there was something else. And how you reconcile perspectives, or the difference between the DNA base pairs, or the four corners of the world card, four fixed signs, is ultimately how you perceive the world, right? And when that ultimately come back then to you as an individual, and how you reconcile those differences, those slight differences even, those degrees of difference, those perspectives, those angles, points of view. And that would be individual, and come down to personal preference and what makes you feel good. I mean, your probably immediate decision-making factors of whether or not something is this or that. Right, for you, and epigenetics and all that talks about a lot, or perceptual learning also talks a lot about the decision-making process and how so much is based on our emotions. So I think majority of people, at least, aim to feel good in their decision-making process, right? Or about something, or within their lifetime. This is not what sustains you and allows you to go on. So, for all time's sake, you're welcome. You're welcome. You are welcome. So again, the pleasure principle that allows you to go on, because, or funny enough, that's a song by Janet Jackson. And also the 6 of Cups in the Thoth deck is pleasure. I think that kind of illustrates how different decks at different times have depicted a certain concept or meaning, view of cards meaning, I should say, and how it should be depicted and seen, which speaks to our evolutionary process of taking on more and more new meanings and acceptance of new meanings and things like that, perspectives, because it's all about perspective, right? It's all one structure, but if you're standing on that extrusion, that ledge right there that's in the foreground, and you want to see the top or the other side, you have to climb that wall that's in your miniature, climb that wall, go over the curve and under, and then get to the part that's connected to the bottom curve, climb that wall on that other side over to the single wedge extrusion there in order to see that wall, and climb that to the top also to see the underlayer. Really hard to come to that conclusion of what the structure and form of that object looks like without going around it in all these different ways, seeing it from all these different perspectives, in order to make an assessment or have an understanding of what the overall shape that you're standing on looks like. Around the world and no, wasn't that a movie or something? Amelia Earhart probably just got stuck in an extrusion, or on, you might say. Maybe branch, an extrusion or extension at the core, center, pleasure principle, gravitational pull, what you're magnetized to in a sense, what pulls you and what pushes you, how hard you fight against that, or if you don't, going with the flow. Yeah, gravitational pull, gravitational force, gravity. Being larger than life would give you a bird's eye view of the overall structure without having to go to the effort. Correct? Being larger than life, like the diesel campaign, literally a giant in a city, or any of these videos that I've mentioned in the past, like Intergalactic or New in Time or Anti-Hero, would give you that bird's eye view of big picture, like the two of wands holding the world in his palm, and eliminate any stress or extra effort or work of climbing all those walls as a miniature person. But I think of the larger than life, or like the Tower card maybe. Let me blow your mind. Sometimes I think animals can understand me, so like, why not try? I'm thinking it anyways, so it's like, might as well speak it. So I was like giving this possum, Possum Kingdom playing dead, toadies, this little nibble of a chocolate bar, and I was like just thinking out loud that, like, don't worry, you're gonna feel a little weird, it's gonna be like really fun for you, and it won't last forever, so just enjoy it, and then I'll stick around, I'll bring you some cat treats because you'll probably want some later. And I feel like maybe able to tap into animal spirit guides, intelligence or something like that, So it's like we really need to be taking better care of our animals. And so really, it just comes back to how I started this again with, like, it's just about the dog. It's just about the dog. Slaughterhouse dogs in China and other places in Asia and around the world, lab experiments and things like that nature of mistreatment and terrible conditions and living just to die. And it being very rough life. And so, like that movie clip with Kirsten Dunst and Michelle Williams. the dog walkers, White House, and them overhearing Nixon saying on the recorder, or kicking Checkers' dog that they walk. And they confronted him about it. He thought it was about Watergate. It was just about the dog. And wanting to end animal violence and mistreatment and slaughter. It would be quite difficult to imagine changing your perspective if you are fixed in nature, in your nature. It would be quite a challenge. So I'm thinking, like, why do I even bother buying him expensive toys when this is all it takes to entertain him? J-Buck, what is that? Catwalk. Get it? What? Come here then. Come here. Hi. Cleopatra. That was the other word that came through as I passed an intersection, as I went through an intersection. From some song I was trying to remember. But that was the other thing. So, and I challenge anyone who thinks they know better to inform me of the recycling process, because I am curious. I don't think many people know, including me, about how that works. And yeah, I feel like I have some helpful suggestions of ways that things could be improved, because really everyone's just basically sorting and resorting at every stage. And it's just like, I feel like we could combine and make a more efficient process into one step where I don't have to fuck up my nails. And since I had mentioned a similarity in disdain, which is a word in Tupac's ambitions as a writer, for quote-unquote average suburban boring women of our time, I put up that Quest for Freedom video inside Chanel, and at the end, she's on the shoulders and there's doves, and I was just like, oh yeah, it's kind of like my Aura Amidst Dove Apparitions video that I have, where there's like a dove-like apparition flying upward, ascending from behind me, my shoulder area. And I was also thinking about how it reminded me of an oracle card that I used to use. I forget the oracle deck name, but because they were kind of cheesy, but it was one of the cards, I think might have been 8, because I remember there being like pictures on the wall in the background of different versions of the strength card that they had illustrated, kind of like. But it was about how the girl with a ring doing some sort of like trapeze kind of, it's like a circus thing or something, is being lifted up on the shoulders or back of the sky. And so I think that's what it has to do with the strength card. To find that deck. But yeah. the sun and moon. Sun lifting the spirits of what I consider my more serious, if not just tired, at the 29th energetic degree. It's been through the entire sign, Taurus. It's just a little bit tired emotionally. But I still think of my moon as pretty calm, being in an earth sign. Even though moon transitions more quickly through the zodiac and think of waves and emotions, feelings, but being an earth Taurus, also having to do with a lot of the senses, second sign, or maybe the water that is being poured out by the star card onto the earth, because moon, Taurus, earth, and water, into the 5 streams and the 5 senses. And yeah, so that's also, it's in the 11th house of Aquarius, aspecting, I think, my Jupiter in Aquarius in the 7th house. Not positive about that though. But anyways, yeah, just that sun-moon opposite aspect of literally on the top of the chart, being lifted up by the sun at the bottom, and fire. And anyways, they set me up with 5 of Wands, can be like, yeah, like setting up a fort or something, like they're all like little girl. At the 5th house, like in a very serious manner. I think he says, bitches set me up. Or lifted up. And didn't tell me. And I was just thinking about the combination between Sagittarius and Aries, and just that claircognizance of what I associate to fire and wands, and a knowing feeling of knowledge, cumulative, not necessarily like independent or sort of information as a noun, but I don't know, just cumulative knowing, feeling, and just being that like first on the scene, being like, I know what happened, kind of like, hey, I'm John, I know what happened, I saw everything. And I think JFK Jr. was like November 27th or something, Sagittarius, Knight of Wands, but in the toss deck it's extrapolated out into 3 versions of that card, and the Knight, Prince, and Princess of Wands. At least you think you do, because the Sagittarius with Sagittarius in Saturn would not speak about something until they pretty much sure about. Pretty sure I know what happened. I know what happened. So yeah. And I was just thinking about how my various friends over the years and their signs, and almost like as a composite, and how they fit into my astrology chart and what dynamics they kind of brought out. And like my Pisces friend would be, and I would talk a lot about like lofty dreams and ideas, and like travel more, win like trips, places, and stuff like that. Being Jupiter ruled long distance travel, and it was my Aquarius friends that I'd actually like buckle down, get to work with, and like work during the day, either at one of our places, because we'd be like working for ourselves or working for freelance kind of things, and or like Soho House, or going on CEO entrepreneurial sort of conferences or collaborating together, doing art projects. Like I was saying, my one friend and I has a brilliant idea to like use dead foliage from the West Side Highway, so we collected like bags of it and took a cab back to make some sort of art project on our roof and have like, yeah, ideas and about starting clothing lines and stuff like that, and had our own independent illustration businesses and go out and like meet people and stuff like that. So that was like the 7th house, Aquarius, where my Capricorn ascendant moon, or Capricorn sun with a Sagittarius ascendant moon, and I could feel very similar about things, but she'd be more like stubborn in her view, and we could talk for hours and that kind of thing. But it's more low key and like stay at home kind of thing. Or sometimes we go out. She was fun to hang out with, so it had the fashion thing in common. And then it was my like roommates and people like that. In the 5th house, we're already working. And I was combine all these people with hang out with that one year at FIT a lot. Yeah, it's just interesting how different people bring out different dynamics in you. And you can kind of pinpoint maybe why based on your astrology placements and the houses and what they represent. Different areas in your life, like 7th house being house of other people, and where you go out into the, world and meet new people, and yeah. So that's where my Jupiter is, in Aquarius. 6th house, Capricorn. And yeah, like my Capricorn friend and I would talk about everything. Our like daily lives. Stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting. It was my Aries friends who were like the first to like, my first best friends actually too, and like very much like Aries, like got pregnant in college, like rushed into a situation and but made it work, like works very hard. Aries, I feel like work very, very hard. All the Aries I've known have been very, very hard workers, putting themselves through school while working long hours or just taking on multiple jobs and raising kids and just doing it all. So are ultimately successful, but yeah, will definitely maybe seem like they've rushed into a situation, like first to have kids, the first thing, I'm gonna do this. They're just like, okay, it seems kind of random, like, but all right, like, I'm on board, that's my, I'll be supportive, I have a lot of fun with you. You're a good friend. Yeah, so it's funny in retrospect after you say something like that, just to pinpoint what that is the fire grand trine. Aries is like doing something kind of random. First to try something and just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. This is what we're doing now. And because why not? And Sagittarius, it's like flexible and like mutable and like cool things. Like, all right, I'm on board. Yeah, why not? Exactly, why not? And the Leo being, I'll be supportive. So yeah, it's just that like, eventually, yeah, you do win. You have all these like sort of internal resources sort of thing to like support and motivate and push your idea forward, but it may be very much random, but you're going to make it into something.